Now for this hour, we start with EU. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen has issued a stark warning regarding growing tensions between Europe and the United States over Greenland, stressing that such disputes could embolden adversaries of the West. Speaking in Strasbourg on Wednesday, von der Leyen has condemned President Donald Trump's threat to impose tariffs on European allies, labeling the move wrong. She has emphasized that any escalation of conflicts among allies would only benefit rivals, whom the West is working hard to keep out of the strategic landscape. She has also conveyed a clear message that Europe is fully prepared to act with unity, urgency, and determination should the situation worsen. Now for this discussion, we welcome Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for joining us. Now, as disputes and between, Greenland and not just Greenland, but over Greenland continue, do you think that the rift between NATO and some allies of Greenland and US was always there, or do you think this has just it's new?
It is interesting part because anyway, the people talk about the alliance of the NATO, but NATO is more than half of the military powers came from the United States. NATO rely on the United States. So that's why the meaning of NATO is the US improve the security in Europe. So military power itself hasn't changed if something the rift has happened between US and Europe. But that is the reality. But at the same time, it is also true that the alliance is facing the problem is beneficial for the enemy. So in this case, the remark of the EU side is true, I believe. But this Greenland issue has three aspects, and now both US and Europeans need to adjust that situation, which is firstly, of course, security. View from the security, Greenland is important now, and how to deal with this matter. Because, for example, the nuclear missile came from Russia, Kola Peninsula, crossing the Greenland, or the Arctic trade route is opening, and the submarine route to the eastern coast of the America is crossing the Greenland, Iceland, British, and now is the age of rare earths, and there are many rare earths, but big the island, but only the 50,000 population. It means that no one is taking this kind of resources or territories. That is true. So view from this security is very important. That is one thing. But another thing is America try to re-establish their influence in the American continent, and Greenland is part of the America, they think. So new type of the Monroe Doctrine, Europe should not intervene in the American continent. In this case, Greenland is part of it, America start to think. So that is one problem, but at the same time, the view from the American history, this is a common way. Firstly, the dominating America, after that, expanding influence to the others. So that's why they start to make America great again. Start from American continent is understandable view from the history. But third aspect we cannot forget is this is right versus left. In these 8 countries send the troops to Greenland, of course 1 to the 15, not big military, try to contribute the security of the Greenland to sharing burden with the United States. But this attitude is the problem because this is part of America, the American thing, and another reason is all of the 8 countries is led by the left or middle governments. There is no far-right government or right government. So because despite President Trump believes that they are the so-called far-right side, so that's why the view from America and the current government, Europe's 8 countries government are potential enemy, potential to become the left against the right. So that's why this is not comfortable. So, for example, the Italian government is close friend of the United States. Hungary also. This country did not join the troops in the Greenland. So why? Because they are close to the U.S. more. No, that is the situation. This year is especially the midterm election, and President Trump need to show the initiative to and create the image they are representative right and fight against the left. In this case, this Greenland issue is appealing point. They are fighting against left. That is really happening just now. So that's why the American attitude looks like a little bit provocative, showing the American flag on the Greenland again and again as SNS. Why America provoke? Because they are looking to the American voters, the right-wing American voters, and come on, I am the representative of your opinion. Something like that is, especially the election year, this is very important.
Thank you, Dr. Nagao, for sharing that. And Dr. Nagao, do you think that there could have been any other way that, U.S. or President Trump could have eyed Greenland, or he could have raised concerns about Greenland's sovereignty and safety and how strategic importance Greenland holds in any other way? Why the way he's doing it's so provocative, and it's like a bullying?
Of course, Greenland is important. I have already mentioned some, but this is missile route against the U.S. or submarine route against the U.S. or the trade route because of the ice is melting, and source of rare earth, that is also true. All of these rely on the Greenland. But during the Cold War, US-Soviet Cold War that time the European allies has a relatively big military, and America also has a big military against Soviet. So that's why the main battle zone is more western side. But anyways, even if that age, the line of the Greenland, Iceland, British, or Norway, these are lying as the main line to stop the Soviets' approach to the eastern coast of America. So now the more smaller military is deploying because of all of these countries shrink their military lesser than half. So that's why indeed there are much wider zones. No one can patrol. Patrol is not fluent like in the past, something like that. So that's why this is the area that they need to strengthen military power. That is true. And indeed, China is a new actor in this region. In the past, China is a small country not involved in the Arctic issue, but now that they are try to buy the former U.S. base in Greenland, or they have already sent nuclear submarines, the people doubt it, and in the negotiation with Russia, they have already got the right to use the Russian naval base in the coastline of the Arctic. So that's why China is coming to this region, because China need to deal with the U.S. They are thinking. Last September, when China holds a military parade, that time the China's leader leading the Russia, North Korea, Pakistan, Belarus, Myanmar, all of the anti-U.S. group China is leading. So why China did not hide this intention is, of course, because China is arrogant. China want to be the leading country of this anti-U.S. group. So that's why China's attitude is very clear against the United States. They need to approach the eastern coast of the United States, and Greenland is a part of it. So that's why now Greenland is matter. That is true. And if the Greenland-Denmark relation is a little complicated and Greenland want to become the independent, in this case, Greenland is a very small country and they accept more investment from China could happen. That is also true. So that's why in this Greenland, the future is uncertain. That's why America tried to try to take the Greenland to make the Greenland stable situation for the security of the United States. Something like that is the background reality of the US is thinking, I think.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for sharing that insight. Now we move on to our next news. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has urged Europeans to avoid reflexive anger and instead sit down with U.S. President Donald Trump to hear his arguments about acquiring Greenland. Speaking ahead of Trump's arrival at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Bessent has suggested that European leaders take a moment and listen to Trump's perspective before reacting. The statement comes amid rising tensions over Trump's repeated threats to seize Greenland, which is part of Denmark. European leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron, have strongly condemned Trump's move, calling it new colonialism. Macron and others have criticized the aggressivity of Trump's tariffs, which he threatened to impose on the countries opposing his Greenland plans. Let's listen into what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has shared.
I would tell everyone, take a deep breath. Do not have this reflexive anger that we've seen and the bitterness. Why don't they sit down, wait for President Trump to get here and listen to his argument? Because I think they're going to be persuaded.